Okay. Okay, so welcome back to our Bodhidharma Cure to the Mind, a commentary to Medicine Buddha Sutra and daily practices. So before we start, we're going to start with a silent meditation. So make sure that every one of us are sitting comfortably, either with your legs folded or 2 feet flat on the floor. We try to take in a few deep breaths. Close our eyes. Let us gather all our thoughts and focus on our breathing. During the silent meditation, if we have thoughts arise and cease, let us just observe it. We're not discriminating. We're not developing the thoughts that we have in our mind. Just focus at the present moment and be aware of each breath that we take. Now let us give ourselves a moment of silence. Now let us all take in a few deep breaths. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in again, breathing out. And slowly open our eyes, gently rub our palms together. And let's cover our palms on our eyes, the top of our head, over our ears to the back of our neck. Let us gently rub our palms together. Gently massage our shoulders, arms all the way to our fingers and wrists. Let's rub our palms together again. Let's breathe in, breathe out as we bend forward, massage our back, all the way to our thighs, knees, calves, all the way to the sole of our feet. Okay, so for today, let us have a quick recap of what we have learned last week. We talked about the topic on Dharma as the light. So in the Flower Adornment Sutra, or what we call Avatamsaka Sutra, it says that the light of wisdom can break through the darkness of ignorance. Last week, we understand more about the importance of cultivating wisdom, importance of contemplating the Dharma around us, including ourselves. The more that we understand, the more that we cultivate, the more that we contemplate, the more that we can break through our three poisons-driven habits and see the reality of life. So the Dharma is often depicted as the light in a dark room, or the light of wisdom. So when the Buddha was around, the Buddha is viewed as the light of life. It is because the Buddha shared with us the Dharma. The Buddha shared with us different experiences in realizing enlightenment. So the more that we observe, the more that we contemplate on what the Buddha shared with us in our everyday life, we hopefully we will be able to realize the truth ourselves and see things as it is, and know what we are experiencing, and be aware of what emotions or what we're going on, what we're experiencing. So if we can be mindful, if we can contemplate on the truth of life, then we won't be easily driven by our greed. We won't be easily driven by our hatred. And of course, most importantly, when we understand the Dharma, when we understand the truth of life, then ignorance will slowly turn and change to wisdom or prajna. So this is what we have discussed and learned about Dharma as the light last week. And for today, we're going to discuss and learn more about the practice of equanimity and compassion. So this is also one of the main practice of not only the medicine Buddha, but also Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So I'm going to talk a little bit more, but before that, let us look at what is equanimity and compassion. So every time towards the end of our class, our session, I will always say the dedication of merit towards the end of the class. So you might come across the word, may kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. So equanimity and compassion are the main practices of the four immeasurable minds. Okay, so that includes kindness and joy. So these are the four main practices as a Bodhisattva, as a Buddha. Okay, so what does it mean by equanimity? So it is referring to a state of calmness and evenness of mind. It is neither attachment or aversion, and it is a cultivation of tranquility. It is capable of producing all the four levels of meditative concentration. So for us to have a mind of equanimity, it's not just within a day of practice. It takes a lot of cultivation. It takes a lot of meditative concentration for us to be able to have a mind that is equanimity. And besides that, the other practice that we're going to talk about today is compassion. Compassion is a practice that many people know, whether one is Buddhist or not. Everyone has empathy and the wish that others be free from suffering. This is just a very general definition of what is equanimity and compassion. So before we look a little bit deeper and in what we're going to talk about the practice, let us have a look at the life of the Buddha. We all know that the Buddha, or Prince Siddhartha, before he realized full enlightenment, he actually saw the four sights outside the palace. And he was able to let go of whatever luxurious life in the palace, let go of everything that he had back then, just to find a solution in helping everyone liberated from the suffering of life and death. So imagine if the Buddha is without the great compassion and a mind of equanimity. How can the Buddha or Prince Siddhartha back then and Bodhisattva be determined in liberating all sentient beings and realize all the vows? Okay, so Prince Siddhartha, even though he was a prince 2,600 years ago, but we all know that Prince Siddhartha was actually practicing Bodhisattva's path. So he had experienced lifetimes of practicing the Bodhisattva's path in trying to practice in putting others before himself, in helping others wherever he can, whether he was a human, in a hell, in the animal realms, or in a heaven. So all the lives that the Bodhisattvas or Prince Siddhartha before enlightenment, he had practiced again and again the six perfections in the Bodhisattva's path. Imagine if the Buddha, even Prince Siddhartha, after realizing full enlightenment and become the Buddha, imagine if the Buddha is without great compassion and a mind of equanimity. How will the Buddha able to let go of all the luxuries of life? How can a person is willing to share whatever that one has? And not only that, if we were to look at all the 12 great vows of medicine Buddhas, in the Buddha's 12 great vows, we all know that medicine Buddha, even before realizing enlightenment, the Buddha has made vows, the Bodhisattvas had made vows in alleviating the physical and mental sufferings of all beings. And along this path is a long journey in gradually improving oneself and gradually realizing one of another's great vows. So without great compassion, a Buddha or a Bodhisattva will not be able to continue on with this practice in realizing all the vows, in realizing the path to Buddhahood. And every time when we look at the Buddha, it reminds us of our teacher. Okay, the Buddha reminds us of someone that we follow, someone that we learn from, a person who has fully enlightened, whether it is Shakyamuni Buddha, the figure in the middle, whether it is Medicine Buddha, the one to the right, or Amitabha Buddha, the one holding a lotus in a hand to the left. So all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to them, they are all equal. To them, their mind is always in a very serene, tranquil, and calm state of mind. Okay, no matter what experience that a Bodhisattva or Buddha is experiencing that time, one's mind is always filled with compassion. One's mind is always filled with equanimity. And the motivation in putting others before themselves is not just in the teachings, but it is actually part of the practice. Just look at the Buddha, okay, Shakyamuni Buddha. We all know that at the age of 80 years old, Ananda followed the Buddha to Kushinaga, the last site, the last place where the Buddha laid down between the twin sala tree. And because the Buddha that back then, he experienced severe food poisoning. And then the Buddha was physically experiencing sickness and almost was the end of his life. And here comes Subhadda. We all know that Subhadda was one of the last disciples of the Buddha. The Buddha was resting under the twin sala tree. And then Ananda was like attending to the Buddha. So from time to time, Ananda makes sure that the Buddha is having a rest, and Ananda will be on guard outside. So here comes Subhadda. He was actually 120 years old that time. And then he requested to see the Buddha. But then Ananda said that, no, the Buddha is resting. The Buddha won't be able to see you right now. And for the second time, Subhadda asked again. Again, Ananda said that, no, the Buddha is resting. He won't be able to see you. And for the third time, Subhadda requested again, okay, saying that he's already almost towards the end of the life. And then he would like to cherish this opportunity to see and speak to the Buddha, to ask for the guidance in the Dharma, in the practice. On the third time, Ananda again said that, I'm so sorry, the Buddha is resting. He won't be able to see you. So during that time, we all know that the Buddha has divine power in hearing. So the Buddha actually heard the request by Subhadda. And the Buddha actually asked Ananda, you may let Subhadda come in and see me. So when Subhadda, the one to the right, saw the Buddha, he kneeled down and paid respect to the Buddha. And then he requested and asked the Buddha to share more about the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay. And then all this while, Subhadda has doubts in the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. But after hearing the teachings by the Buddha himself, Subhadda realized our hardship that instant. Subhadra has removed all defilements with that instant. So with these examples, with this incident that happened, we all know that the Buddha, imagine if we are like experiencing severe diarrhea, we are having like physical pain and discomfort. And if someone were to ask to see us, how would we feel? If we don't have great compassion like the Buddha, our mind is focusing only on the physical discomfort. And when others would like to talk to us, sometimes we might give rise to frustration. We might give rise to negative emotion. But then again, we look at our teacher, the Buddha, even almost towards the end of his life, the Buddha is still thinking of others. The Buddha was still being so compassionate and us thinking that now it is the right condition for Subhadra to receive the teaching. And the Buddha also knew that it will be the last disciples that he will have. So because of the great compassion, the Buddha is not feeling mentally discomfort by the physical discomfort. The Buddha clearly know that the body is part of dependent origination, and the sickness of diarrhea or food poisoning is also part of something that is dependently arising. So with the Buddha as our role model, as our teacher, we slowly and gradually learn how to practice compassion. And of course, not only compassion, but also the willingness to listen to others, and also have the mind that is always in a state of serenity, tranquility, and calm. Whether it is physical suffering or mental suffering that one is experiencing, everything is part of dependent origination. Everything is dependently originated. And then another story that I would like to share with you on the practice of equanimity is from the example of Sariputra. Sariputra is one of the great disciples of the Buddha. He's known for great wisdom among the 10 great disciples. So there was one occasion that Sariputra went to another place to share the Dhamma. So the moment that Sariputra left the vihara, the place where the Buddha is, a monk came to the Buddha and started to slander Sariputra, started to say something bad about Sariputra. And then after hearing what the monk said, the Buddha eventually asked Sariputra to return, to come back, and asked Sariputra whether this is true or not. So Sariputra, instead of like replying the Buddha, Sariputra replied the Buddha, saying that, teacher or Buddha or World Honored One, you know me best. Sariputra said that I'm like the earth. Both pure things and impure things fall on the earth, and the earth does not discriminate. And Sariputra continued, I'm like the water. Water cleans both the wholesome and unwholesome and does not discriminate. Unlike glowing fire, fire burns everything on the mountains. It burns both beautiful things and ugly things without discrimination. And Sariputra continues, unlike a broom, sweeps away everything regardless of its appearance. And Sariputra said This is the state of my mind. My mind is cultivated to tolerate all without differentiation or discrimination. And why would I argue with other monks and then run off? So after hearing what Sariputra said, the Buddha turned to the monk and said, "Is that true, whatever that you have mentioned earlier?" The monk then repented, saying that he was sorry to say all the things and for slandering Sariputra. So we all know that Sariputra has a mind and also always practice the practice of equanimity. A state of mind is just like the earth, just like the water, just like the fire, just like the broom, that does not discriminate the good and bad in others. Sariputra is able to tolerate between and will not discriminate or will not differentiate between one and another. Okay, so for ourselves, it is one good opportunity for us to reflect on the practice of equanimity. So when others are rude to us, in our mind, not only we have to contemplate and think for ourselves and reflect whether it is true or not, but for us to calm down our emotion at that moment is for us to understand when others are rude to us, they reveal who they are, not who we are. Okay, so this is a reminder for ourselves not to get emotionally entangled by a phrase, by a sentence mentioned or stated by others. The same goes to an action. Okay, so we won't be able to control and manage others or influence others, but at least we can constantly remind ourselves to practice the mind of compassion, the mind of equanimity. So when we live in this world with so many things happen every day, we should always try to see the good in others, not the bad. We try to, when we see others' unwholesomeness, it acts as a mirror for us to reflect so that we won't follow suit. We won't be influenced by others. And every one of us has our own capabilities. We have the goodness in everyone. So we try to learn the goodness, the wholesomeness from others and not being influenced by something that is unwholesome. So with the world that we lived in, the society, the community that we lived in, sometimes we experience others, what do you call that? Backbiting or fault finding by the people at workplace, in the community. And sometimes like we might experience anger. We might experience mistrust of others. But all the effects of the negative speech will only create an environment in which it will become very difficult for us to stay positive. But then again, how are we going to cope with all this and really be joyful and calm under these circumstances, under this pressure? Okay, so this is a question that we have to contemplate on. It is because even though we learn the practice of equanimity, but we have to find something that can keep on reminding ourselves to stay positive, something to remind ourselves to always stay calm. Okay, and not only the people around us in the society, but also the challenges that we might face today virtually. Okay? with the internet, everything that we want to do, okay, like the artificial intelligence, okay, the AI, or whether it's the internet, whether it is YouTube, whether it is Google, whether it is the social media, whether it is Instagram, Facebook, or so on and so forth, AI will do what we ask. That's a problem. Okay. Whatever that we key in, whatever that we typed in, we search the internet. Of course, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, it will continue to, what do you call that? It will continuously pop up on the page, on the search engine. It's just like the picture that I've shared with you here. The computer has a genie. It's no longer genie in a bottle. It's a genie in a computer, genie in an AI. The same goes to YouTube. Okay, the algorithm that the programmers program in it, it will help to, the main purpose of doing that is to ease the searches that one wants to search. Okay, but then if a person put in something negative, then the YouTube will continuously pop up all the negativity, all the polarized and radicalized news, and spread misinformation even further and deeper. Okay, and not only that, because when you click on one, the rest that is related will keep popping up. And if we are not being mindful, we might end up keep watching it, one after the other. If it is something that is misinformation, the whole stream of misinformation will continuously pop up. So in view of the challenges that we face today virtually, how are we going to remain a mind of equanimity? Okay, so this is the question that we can contemplate a little bit more. Okay, so when it comes to compassion, we learn so much from the Buddha, and not only that, sentient beings or everyone can attain Buddhahood is because of the compassion within our mind. Compassion is also the basic quality of being human. Okay, for one can be without everything, but still have compassion. So just like what I mentioned earlier, whether one is Buddhist or not, compassion is within our mind. Sometimes when we see others that are in need of help, thinking we will always ask and see if you need any help, or we are always willing to lend a hand. So when we have compassion, okay, whatever that we say, whatever that we do, is just like sunshine. It's just like pristine water. It's just like pretty flower that brings light and joy to the world. So even when it comes to the practice of meditation, compassion is one of the main practice that helps to solve the problem of hatred or anger within our mind. When there is compassion in our mind or in this world, life is full of meaning. As we endure the trials and tribulations life offers us, compassion inspires us with endless vision. When we have compassion, we always think of different ways to solve the problems that we are experiencing right now. When we have compassion, we always think for others. Okay? When we have compassion, everything will be seen through our words and through our action. And just like these two pictures that I would like to share with you was taken some time ago when Verbal Master was like between maybe 60 years old to 70 years old, or that was like almost like 30 years ago. So the picture to the left, you will see Verbal Monster was sitting on a bench, and then there are so many parrots like standing on his head, the shoulders, arms, and even on the head. This picture was taken in Australia, where I'm not so sure where is it, but there was a place where they have so many parrots, wild parrots around that area. And as Verbal Monster was there in Nantian Temple, there was one occasion where they went to a place where it is like filled with greens. And Verbal Monster was like just taking a break and sit on the bench. And then not knowingly, all the parrots come flying and then settle down on him. So if our mind is without compassion, this won't happen. It is because compassionate mind comes from within, and it will show through the words, show to our action. Okay, just like the picture to the right, you see the small thing that is like the animal that is on Verbal Master's shoulders as well as his arm. This was taken in Foguangshan in Kaohsiung, south of Taiwan. The place where Verbal Master's office is. Whenever the window is open, the squirrels there, they will always climb in and then walk around, jumping around here and there. So this is like the squirrels in Taiwan. So imagine with this pictures that we can tell that Verbal Masters has a very compassionate mind. Only then the animals are not afraid of him. And with these examples, it also reminds me of the incident that happened between the Buddha and Sariputra. Okay, we mentioned about Sariputra earlier. So there was one occasion where the Buddha and Sariputra was walking on the path, and they walk until one place where there were like animals like jumping here and there on the ground. And when Sariputra tried to approach the animal was saw the shadow of Sariputra, and the animal was like afraid and then run away. But then when it comes to the Buddha's shadow is like on the ground, but then the animals are not afraid of the shadow of the Buddha. So Sariputra observed the distinction and asked the Buddha, why is it so? The Buddha said that when it comes to the practice of compassion, it comes from the mind. And from the mind, it will reflect on our speech and action. This is another example that I would like to share with you. So in our life, there are many happenings in life that we need to make a decision, whether it is a hard decision or an easy decision. We make many decisions every day. So if you look at this picture here, okay, so it is for us to reflect on the compassion within our mind. And not only the compassion in our mind, but do we have the wisdom to act and help compassionately? Sometimes there are things that we might thought that it is for the good of others. But have we thought of what others need? Take, for example, there was one occasion where the family had an elder where she stayed at home by herself. And the family members was trying to give her the care that she needed, but she always rejected. And as she grew older and older, the movement became slower. Okay, so eventually the family decided to send her to the senior homes. Okay, thinking that this is for the safety of their mother. It is for the safety of the grandmother. Okay, so that there will be someone who is always there to take care of the mother or grandmother. Okay, but however, this is from one perspective, the perspective from the family. But from the perspective of the elder, the mother, she cried every day. She felt that as if like she was being put in a jail. There's no freedom in what to do every day. She has to follow the schedule, the routines in the senior homes, wake up early and sleep early. And she didn't even have the choice to pick the attires that she loved to wear. So with these examples, it also reminds us that all the compassionate thoughts that we have in our mind, we always need to have wisdom, okay, so that we can provide the help that is needed by others. It's not just thinking that this is something helpful, but in the end, it is not really helpful to that individual, to others. So true compassion then lies in the willingness to be burdened by the concerns of the world, and also to be delighted by the happiness of all humanity. So the practice of compassion, true compassion, is not just our willingness to burden others' concern, others' suffering, or to help others, but also it comes to have a mutual joy that ones will experience when we help others, and this is the help that others needed. So we ourselves and the person that we are helping, we are all delighted, we are all happy with whatever that we are doing. We are happy with whatever that one is receiving. Only then this is what we call true compassion. Only then this is what we talk about compassion with wisdom. So as a conclusion for today's sharing, the whole Medicine Buddha Sutra, we know that Manjushri Bodhisattva asked the Buddha, how are we going to practice in removing all karmic obstructions? Okay, and we have learned throughout the classes that we had in the past, we learned about the practice of meditative concentration. We learned about the practice of upholding the precepts of morality, and also the cultivation of prajna, the cultivation of wisdom. And eventually, we try to reflect on what we have learned from the Buddha, which is the Dharma, and how we're going to apply in our everyday life. And for today, we continue on with almost the end of one of the main practices of the Buddha, as well as the Medicine Buddha, is the practice of equanimity and compassion. Okay, because of these practices, one can experience peace and stability and continue the Bodhisattva's path. If our mind is always in a state of equanimity, there won't be any emotional influence in our mind, in our action, in our speech. When we practice compassion, okay, we always thought of others. We always think compassionately in our mind and try to understand others' needs and try our best to lend a hand to help others. This is what we learned about the practice of equanimity and compassion. Okay, so this is what I would like to share with you all. Okay. Do you have any comments or questions?
Yes.
We do have a few in the chat box, Venerable. The first one came from Kitso. And she commented, Venerable Juji mentioned she discusses Dharma and chants besides teaching a class. Does anyone have the Zoom links? Does Venerable Miao Zhang do this as well? I am thankful for this class, Venerable Miao Zhang. It is a treasure and a jewel. So I wonder if maybe Kitso, you might need to clarify, or unless Venerable, you understood the question.
Yeah, I think Verbal Juji, the temple in Austin, as well as the temple in Orlando. Is Aina here?
Aina had to leave early. She messaged me.
Oh, okay.
But she was here earlier.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have a Zoom link, or most of the time chanting is usually live stream via YouTube channel. Yeah. So maybe you would like to ask Verbal Juji and see, or I can ask on your behalf, and then yeah, I can share with you. Or anyone from yeah, or anyone from here knows. Yeah, because in San Diego, we connect with Shilai Temple in LA for the Sunday services, as well as like the annual prayers. They have live stream via YouTube, but the chanting is in Chinese. But we will have the subtitles both in Chinese, English translation as we chant along. Yeah, they also have like e-chanting book that is online. Yeah, so this is all virtual. Yeah, so it is unlike like it won't be like a Zoom meeting. Yeah. Okay.
Is there like a YouTube connection or something for Saturday or Sunday services? Is it on your website or?
Yeah, it's on our website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay.
The next one we have is from Danny. He had some comments regarding the topic of rudeness that you covered on the slides.
Okay. Danny?
Yes. Well, for one thing, I want to thank you for this great Dharma talk today. I always love to hear, especially the finale, we're approaching the finale of the course, talk about empathy, loving kindness, and compassion. And I see that as so central to the whole Buddhist path. It's just wonderful to hear again and again. The other thing I wanted to mention was that several of us here are taking the class on the 8 realizations from Venerable Juji. And we just had our class yesterday, and we're reading Venerable Master's book, The Great Realizations, on that. And I just wanted to share something because you had a slide on rudeness. And in his writing here, he said, the path is not always an easy one. Sentient beings are mean, ungrateful, stupid, lazy, nasty, and rude. And that if you are really serious about saving them, you must be prepared to be treated very badly. The Mahayana mind is not for weak spirits. And that sounds negative, but you know, I think it's realistic. And I think as much as we try to help other people and be good and offer them loving kindness, we aren't necessarily going to get that back every time. And it's a good reminder that one of my favorite sayings is that encapsulate Buddhism is nothing is ever permanent, perfect, or personal. And personal means self, getting the self in front of everything. So that if I encounter if I'm trying to be helpful or good to somebody and I encounter, a real bad blowback and stuff, I try to remember that really it was the intention that I had to begin with to help them. So it's all interesting. Sometimes I tell you, Venerable, sometimes I feel like not only am I a dog chasing my tail, which is the self, but sometimes I think the tail is chasing the dog, So if I could get away from self and get into non-selfhood, really, I think that'd be a major advance. Thank you.
Yeah, so sometimes, thank you, Danny. The phrase that you read earlier, it reminds me that sometimes I will always encourage myself, saying that the more challenging the practices, which means that I'm improving slowly. So which means that in life that we lived in, the more challenging it is, which means that we are improving even more, little by little. Okay, so sometimes we might think that how come we experience so many things, we try to help, but we ended up like this help is not being well received, or even sometimes we live in this world that we experience rudeness. And we always remind ourselves of the parable that the Buddha shared with us, if one is being reprimanded by someone, okay, just like the Buddha, as if you raise your head up in the air and you spit in the air. What will happen to that spit? You will fall back to one's face. Okay, the same goes to a present. If someone were to say all the bad things and then we remain calm, we remain focused on the practice of equanimity, the mind of tranquility. So what will happen to the gift? What will happen to the person who said all the bad things? All the words will go back to that person. So this is how we try to understand and also be fully aware of our emotion, our reaction, and what is in our mind. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And any more?
Yes, we have one more question, but I do like to insert a comment related to the topic of rudeness from myself. I really like the slide that with the quote, when others are rude to you, they reveal who they are, not who you are. So I really, really appreciated that today to hear. So thank you, Venerable, for including that in today's lecture. The next comment is by Lai Ping. She asked, what is the difference between compassion for others and compassion for self? Which one has the higher priority when one only can carry out either self-compassion or compassion for others at some situations?
Okay, thank you, Lai Ping, for this question. It is when it comes to self-compassion or compassion for others, the priority is within ourselves. The priority is different from one and to another, which means that our practice and others' practice, we are all in a different stages. Okay, so if we are in a point at the stage of where we want to practice more of self-compassion, okay, like in our everyday life, in terms of our work life or our family life, this is what we call self-compassion. But on top of that, we always have the opportunity to be with others. Of course, in a family, it's not by ourselves. We always have our family. When we go to work, we always have our colleagues. We always have our boss or supervisors. We have so many people around us. So that is when we try to reflect on the practice of compassion. But when it comes to the dilemma of when I'm doing a certain things, am I being compassionate to myself? At the same time, am I being compassionate towards others? Okay, so that involve another question of when whatever that we say, whatever that we do, are we being considerate to others? And the question of consideration always go hand in hand in the practice of precepts, in the practice of morality. So the whole subject is not just on compassion. It involves how considerate we are, how mindful we are, and how respectful we are in terms of upholding the precepts of morality that we practice. So which one has priority? The question we have to ask ourselves. Because we are all in a different phrase in our practice. Okay. And sometimes when we practice self-compassion, we can also be compassionate towards others. Okay, take for example, when every day, because now in San Diego, we are in the middle of like transitioning between autumn and winter, the season. So every morning after breakfast, not only I will water the plants, but I will always need to sweep the floor in front of the temple because there's always leaves. Okay, so when I'm sweeping the floor, and sometimes I will just use the blower to blow away all the leaves. Is it self-compassion, or I'm being compassionate towards others? So this is a question that we ask ourselves. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's neither. Which is which? So I'm not sure my comments, is it helpful or not? Anyone, if you have any feedbacks or comments, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, so would you like to read your comment that you just posted? Would you like me to read?
I have I guess the same problem that I don't know who just asked a question. I'm suffering. It's looking for ways to, I guess, heal myself, but the main goal is to ultimately have enough spiritual strength to help others and not be focused on myself. So, and you know, trying, like, asking about whether Venerable Juji, you know, discusses the Dharma, you know, martial arts. So I keep trying to find ways to make me a better person with the ultimate goal of helping others. So, and it already feels like Ina and Angelica and all our Venerable staff are already there. So you're a good role model. So thank you, Angelica.
Thank you. I would say I'm not there yet. I'm still working on it.
Oh, I love you. You are so sweet. I just, oh my God.
Yeah. We are all working towards there. So when it comes to the time that we feel that we need more of the self-compassion, okay, we can practice more of self-compassion. Okay. But when we practice self-compassion, we have to also remind ourselves the self-compassion is not giving ourselves excuses in not doing the things that we need to do. Okay. So this is self-compassion. So self-compassion always comes with the cultivation of meditative mind. And also we have to uphold the precepts. Morality is always the focus. And of course, we need the wisdom. Okay, everything that we practice, we will need what we call the threefold practice, the threefold training. It's just like this morning when we have the new series of the Foguangshan English Dharma services. Like every Saturday morning, we have about like 15 to 20 minutes of English lecture. Every time, every week, we have a different topic. And for this Saturday, today, they actually released a new series of the lecture that talks about the three the threefold training, okay, that you can listen a little bit more about the importance of precepts, meditative concentration, and wisdom. Okay, only then we can slowly, with that foundation, we can slowly understand more and more about ourselves, and also we try to understand others' needs. So it takes time. Yeah, we are all practicing. We are all like still have a lot of room for improvement. But when things get tough, always think of, oh, this is one great opportunity for me to grow stronger. It is one opportunity for me to reflect better. Yeah, so thank you, Angelica, for sharing the link. Thank you. So Angelica has shared the YouTube link of this week's Fo Guang English Dharma Service talk on the threefold training. And also Danny has also shared a good resource of self-compassion. You can look at the chat box here. Any last comments? Okay, so let me share the slide again. Okay, so let us dedicate merit. Please join your palms. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows. So for next week, we do not have class, and our last class will be on December 4th, where I'm going to share and wrap up everything that we have learned and discussed. And feel free to prepare questions for your discussion, for any questions that you have regarding the Medicine Buddha Sutra, regarding what we have discussed on December 4th. Okay, so last but not least, I would like to share announcements that next Friday, November 26th, we're going to have one of the English programs that we have. Thank Buddha is Friday, is online via Zoom. And this Friday, we are going to have a forum that talks about voices of gratitude, reflecting on the blessings and challenges of the pandemic. So it will be 7 p.m. the Pacific time. So if any one of you in other places, we have included the world clock so that you can always do the conversion of the time for you. So in this forum, we have invited a doctor, a nurse, and also a nonprofit organization, and also a COVID survivor to share insightful, inspiring stories of whatever that they have faced during the whole pandemic and is still ongoing, and also the blessings that they have received along the way in their life. Okay, so that is what I would like to share with you today. And I will see you on December 4th or November 26th for our Thank Buddha is Friday program. You can click on the chat box that Angelica has shared the link for registration for the Thank Buddha is Friday forum. Okay, so and I'll see you all then. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Miao-Zhang Shifu. Thank you,
take
dear
care.
brothers.
Miao-Zhang Fa Shen. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
Mother Father.